Welcome back to the rest of the story. Here's an implement you guys haven't seen in a while, and I've had a couple questions about it lately if it was still around. Yes, it is still here. It is our Harrow. So we've had this for, I think this is the third year we've had it now. It runs a lot better than those old 4-section Harrows we used to run. Well, the last one we had was a Lindsay, but it was those old 4-section bar tooth Harrows. Not really, didn't really realize they were kind of, well, they didn't work as well as this thing. This is a drag chain type. Those Harrow section ones, those 4-section Harrows, they didn't move enough dirt as far as being able to smooth the ground down. This tool, you guys will see it here really quick that it works. It does a lot better job smoothing the soil off. It doesn't take, well, and it is actually easier to fold out than the old Harrow sections were, especially when you have a hydraulics here to help you. It's a relatively simple design. I mean, basically you fold it out and you drag it across the ground. But with that cylinder on it, I think you guys are going to, I'm pretty sure I have it on camera, where you can raise the chain up enough where you can go between strips or move around throughout the field and not drag the chains. But you do have to be a little bit careful with it. I mean, we did a little bit of welding to it on the back left tire. If you're looking to the left of the screen there, you can see that one bar is kind of black. It was full of water when we got it. It was already cracked. But what we found out was it was full of water, and it sat out in the cold, well, even throughout the winter. And the water froze, expanded, and it tore out the welds, or sheared the metal open on it. So all we did is just heat it back up and did a nice little weld down through it, and it works out really well. But here's a trick to folding this thing out. Simply put, when you're going to fold it out, because you gotta get out and manually do it, I've got the back end of the Harrow tilted downhill because the wings on the front here towards the tires, they gotta fold backwards. Helps you unfold it a lot easier, and it works the same way when you're folding it back up too. I don't have folding it up on camera. I'm aware of that, but all you gotta do is there's some cables there that help support the arms when you're dragging it through the field, and you pull a pin on each side. That's what I'm doing right now. I don't know if you guys are wondering why I'm walking around with a shop rag in my back pocket. I went through and I had to panic change the engine oil in the 4020 and the 7600 this morning before we could plant oats today. So I guess I actually ran around with that in my back pocket all day. I completely forgot about it. It didn't take too long to change the oil. I mean, you do it enough times and it's pretty straightforward. But about the part that takes the most time, excuse me, about the part that takes the most time is the draining of the oil and putting the oil back in. Changing the filters is like a non-event. But you don't see too many of these Harrows around. I have never seen a Harrow like this with the chains in this area before. This is the first one, and we drove out into Iowa and bought it. This was a Craigslist purchase. It was purely by chance that we found it because the guy listed it 6 o'clock one night, and I saw it like right after he listed it, and by 9 o'clock the next morning we were pulling it home. We went through and put new bearings in all the wheels because this machine, this implement, really, all the seals were cracked out of the back, so all the bearings were kind of dried out. So we went through and repacked them, new seals, and it works great. The only thing I have to do is pump the tires up from sitting all winter. I'm still kind of in the middle of the road if I want to drag this across the soybean ground. I don't know if Dad's planning on it. I was planning on doing all of my soybeans, dragging it across them once and just smoothing off any ridges that we may potentially make. I'm going to wait and see how much residue that is left on top of the soil from the VT, because corn residue and bean stubble, and you're going to see it. I'll be going across bean stubble here. It works down great. The only problem is if you get in too much residue, like this manure, the strip right here is spread with manure. You get through corn stalks with a lot of residue. What happens is if you hit it the first time, it's not a problem. It smooths it off. The problem is if you go back through and hit it again and the residue doesn't flow through the chain, which it really shouldn't because there's hooks down towards the ground that's to agitate the soil. It fills full of corn, and then the problem is that then the stalks kind of roll up and you get clumps of corn stalks out the back of the harrow. If I would have chiseled my corn stalks and then VT'd them chiseled my stalks in the fall and then VT'd them in the spring, it wouldn't have been an issue. I know the stalks would have been buried and would have deteriorated a lot quicker than what they are now. It's not that they aren't deteriorating. I mean, I know we could hit it with the VT. We'll throw more dirt, a little bit more dirt over top of what's there yet, and I could plant onto the top of that, and that may very well be what we just end up doing. Be quite honest, guys, in 3 weeks we'd be putting corn and beans in the ground. It's well within the realm of possibility. So that's kind of why we're getting kind of excited around here. We're trying to get everything done that you want done before planting gets here. Like that brush that we cut down the other day. This is the field road you can see on the far left of the screen. This is where we drive along the end of the strips. Ryan went through and tore them all up. The reason he did that is because we wanted to seed it down and get it all smoothed out again. There was nothing wrong in doing this. It's making sure we have enough of a road to drive up and down when we're going through picking up hay and making hay throughout the summer. That right there is a perfect example of another fence row that has been reclaimed by the wilderness. That is it's not terrible, but it's not exactly the cleanest either. I mean, the fence is getting pretty bad. Anybody that isn't aware or hasn't been around fences throughout their lives, they know that a fence that is full of trees like that is kind of a nightmare, for the simple fact that when the trees get to be that old and they start to die out and rot out, what happens is that they fall over onto the fence, and you're left with having to go through and cut trees off the fence and patch fence, and over a certain amount of years that just makes your fences, just wrecks them. It really does. And then to the point where, I mean, the stumps are, even if you cut the trees off, the stumps are still there. As far as trying to go put in a new fence, you're pretty much left with you got to go through and hit it with the bulldozer to clean everything back out. We used to keep the fence rows cleaner, but for the amount of, at the time when we were running over all the farms we were, plus all the cattle we were milking, I can't remember an exact number. We had dairy operations on at least three of the farms. We were milking, I think, well over 400 head of cattle. And, when you're doing dairy like that, some of the minor jobs like going through and cutting or spraying saplings and trees out of fence rows gets kind of pushed to the back of the list of things to do. Now, this is the outside round. Ryan did overlap out of the strip. That's why that outside edge looks so rough, is because he was digging up the sod. He was trying to smooth everything out. He did a good job of it. I hit it with a harrow like 6 times, really kind of bust up those sod clumps, because the sod just, the roots do not like to bust up, and it's kind of a pain. But if you look on the right side of the video, you can see that we're out in the field, and it's doing a nice job smoothing the soil off. It'll make a nice, smooth, even seed bed for the oats to come up, and more importantly, it will help with cutting the hay, because cutting hay on rough fields makes for a very long day. I've done it. And the smoother the field, the faster you can go. I mean, you're not trying to go mock chicken when you're cutting hay. I mean, sometimes you do. I mean, I've gone up to 10 miles an hour before. But anywhere around here, at least on these strips, 7 to 8 miles an hour is going to be pretty standard. This is the lowest strip on the farm. This is on this piece right here where we're driving through right now is the steepest part of Ryan's place. It doesn't seem that bad, but if you look at the tire tracks of the Harrow, it is being pulled downhill. Compared to, yeah, right there, it's really bad. Compared to the tractor tires. Um, Ryan's place is probably the second. Like Rockville, the home farm is probably not the lightest. What's best to say it? The most gently rolling. There really isn't any steep ground at the home farm at all. Then you have Ryan's place, and then my place is the worst. Between the three home farms, I mean, yeah, we do have that satellite farm, but that is steep in its own respect too if you get on the lower end of it. You can see on the far left, before I end this video, you can see the corn stalks, the residue are catching in the chains compared to the right side where we're down on the bean strip a little bit better. And this view is giving you a good look at all the waterways Ryan tore up. Say the waterways and everything got torn up. We don't do that during corn and beans, obviously, but when you're going through and seeding grass and alfalfa down, it makes sense to go through and tear everything up and seed it down and get everything smoothed out properly again. But that was a full round with in the field, guys, and I'm heading back up to where I started. But that's all I have for this video. I don't know if we're going to be doing any more harrowing videos. I'm sure Ryan has some drone footage because I almost took the drone out a couple times while I was working. But that's all I have for this video. That camera mount that I have that was custom made specifically for my GoPro from my sponsor was pulling in putting in double time yesterday because it was on basically everything, and it worked out really well. It didn't, I mean, that's what I got the camera on right now, and it works out really nice. So that was a really big help from my sponsor. But that's all I got for this video, guys. Hope you appreciate it. Hope you enjoy it. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. So until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch.